Okay, so we continue, much ado about nothing. We want to now show that 0 is the initial object. So this is really the punchline. So what we do, we consider the identity arrow from... So we want to show that there's a single arrow from 0 to any object A. So we consider the identity arrow of 0 times A. We can think of this as a relation, R, since it's clearly a monic. And then if we want to think about that as a function, or if we want to show that that relation's functional, then according to our previous results, we want to show that these two statements are true. So we'll call this relation R, and we want that chi r of x comma y and chi r of x comma y dash implies y equals y dash, and also that there exists a y in A such that chi r x comma y is true. But both of these, or we could say for all x. Well, the thing is that both of these statements have free variables in 0, and so since we know that any sequence involving variables in 0 is true, we know that these are both true. So we know that R is a functional relation. So it must refer to some arrow from 0 to A, and we can call that arrow H. So we have that there's an arrow from 0 to any object. Now also, we have that for any pair of arrows, H and K, we can consider this sequence here, TX, or maybe we can just say true, or even leave it blank on the left, implies HX is KX for X in 0. And again, since this is a free variable X in 0, by the previous result, this is true. So what that means is we can say it's okay to say HX is KX for X in 0. What's that mean? Well, if we interpret it, what it means is that H equals K. So there's only one arrow from 0 to A. So that means that 0 is indeed an initial object. Now, it has to be a strict initial object because we're working in a topos and it's Cartesian closed. And the only way that can happen is if there's no arrow from 1 to 0. So since if there was, it would collapse everything down. So 0 has to be a strict initial object. Also, any arrow from 0 to A is monic. Why? Well, consider the pullback of this arrow from 0 to 1 along exclamation mark A. Now that's going to be by a previous result, when we do a pullback of arrows into a terminal object, the object which is the pullback is the product of the two bottom left and top right corners. So this is the product of 0 times A. So it's isomorphic to 0. So such an arrow, since it's a pullback of a monic, it is a monic. So there we go.